Welcome to episode 75, part 2 of the Logan, Andy, and Kyle experience here on the Trash Talk Business Podcast.
So you always talk about your job times, like how long it takes to do an entire job. Do you keep that time running up until the final landfill trip, or do you stop it at landfill trips?
You're saying as far as how do I schedule jobs and price them, or
time, like when you're tracking how long it takes to complete? Like you said, you start the time when you show up.
Yeah, I mean we don't charge by time. This is all about how much time do I estimate for us to get the job done. Yeah. So no, the only thing I'm factoring is from the second I pull on the driveway till I leave, because I could be 2 minutes from my shop, or it could be an hour from my shop. Then I factor. This is a great question, though. I really like this, and this is one of the things where I get twitchy operationally. I have some people, and this is people that want to make things easier and not simpler. So this is a great question. This is the challenge I have. Some people will say, like, okay, let's take your standard one trailer job, right? 8 a.m. start. And they'll put on their calendar, 7:30 to noon, I'm going to be on this job, right? Because it's a half hour to drive there, 2 hours to do the job, half hour to drive to the landfill. Let's call it, right? We're not sorting, we're just whatever, right? I'm at the landfill for a half hour, and it's going to take me an hour to get to my next job or whatever. I fucking hate routing like that. Right. And because it doesn't make things simple, and it's not scalable once you have other employees and other things to factor. So that same job, let's say it's a one trailer job, and I only have one trailer capacity, right? Because I build efficiencies in by sending box trucks that can do 2-3 trailers, right? Simplicity, because that's where I started with one trailer. So this is how I break that down. Job starts at 8 a.m. I need my guys there at 7:15. 7:15 to 7:30, you're loading the truck, getting ready, briefing for the day, right? 7:30 to 8 a.m., you're driving to the location. Now, it could be a 5-minute drive, it could be a 25-minute drive. I always factor in a half hour because I want people to show up early rather than late. And I want people to have this mindset that we leave our shop at 7:30. Because we always had guys that were like, oh, my job's not till 8, and it's only a 5-minute drive, so I'm going to leave at 10 to 8. It's like, no, get there sooner rather than later. If it's an 8 a.m. job, most people are not going to get shit if you get there at 7:45. Fine. I factor in 2 hours for a full trailer. Now, this is with a couple things, right? So the two contributing factors that might make the job longer. A, what type of material is it? B, where is it located? I have a formula. I have an Excel spreadsheet I use any job that's more than 2 trailers to factor in how long this will take. So, for example, if it's a bunch of furniture in the driveway or garage, it's going to take half as long as if it's a regular household of mixed items, right? If it's a bunch of smalls in a backyard or a basement, it's going to take twice as long. And that's the basic hillbilly math. But my spreadsheet, my calculator is much more in-depth than that. And now I can do the math in my head. I know how long it's going to take. But this is for my operations people, my estimators, so that we're setting our guys up for success. That's how long it takes to do the job. So full trailer, 16 cubic yards. It takes half hour for every 4 cubic yards. So it's a 2-hour job. And those are man hours. That's with a 2-man team. Okay, so it's those 4 man hours for a full trailer. If you have 3 guys, that full trailer now gets down to about an hour 15, right? Because now we're still taking 4 man hours divided by 3 versus divided by 2. So that starts to factor in, right? And that's a controllable. From there, I factor my drive time to the next location, unload time, multiple locations potentially. Like with our trucks, when they fill up, almost always they come back to our shop. And then from here, we sort them. Okay. I factor when you're unloading by hand, however long it takes to do the job, it's normally 1/3 to unload. So again, hillbilly math, you got 2 hours to load up a full trailer, about 45 minutes to unload. Right? If it's large furniture, it could be 20 minutes. Right? It could be a sixth of the time it took to load it. Hillbilly math says about 1/4 to 1/3 of the time on any given size. So again, 3-trailer job, I'm factoring, right? If I say a 3-trailer job, we got 12 man hours, 2 people, 6 hours. This is only the time on the job, not all the time it takes to unload, right? I got no, my math is 6 hours or six for 2 guys, right? It's going to take about 2 hours total to unload that job. And then when I build my schedule in, I build in 2 hours to do the job, half-hour drive time, half-hour to unload, half-hour to get to my next job. So now, 7:15 the guys come in, 7:30 they leave, 8 to 10 they're on the job, 10 to 10:30 they're driving, 10:30 to 11 they're unloading, 11 to 11:30 they're en route to the next location.
Good.
And now if you're just like, oh shit, well, we're going to stop at donation and the scrapyard. Well, now I'm going to go to the donation center and scrapyard. Ideally, they're close to either the job, each other, or the next location. And I got to build in a half hour. It's a half hour to scrapyard. I know I can throw off scrap in 7 minutes. I got to get on the scale. That takes 5 minutes. I have to unload. I have to get off the scale. I have to stand at the window. I have to get back on the main road. It's a half hour, right? Well, I did it in 22 minutes. Cool. I'd rather factor a half hour. And now if I have that next job scheduled at noon and I get there at 11:30, 11:45, I got a happy customer, happy crew.
Yep.
I've also factored in traffic, accidents, mishaps, job gets bigger, scrapyard's full. You know what I'm saying? The challenge I see with a lot of people, especially in this, when you're routing, for example, once you get multiple trucks, you're like, all right, I'm gonna schedule it in ideal conditions. It's like, well, conditions aren't ideal. I also know when I used to factor how long it took me to do jobs, especially demo jobs, I'd be like, all right, how fast can my brother and I do this job? And whatever the number was, I would double it.
Gotcha.
Because the guy in the truck is not my brother and I. They do not have the years of experience. They don't have the size and physical ability. My brother and I are pretty big guys. And moreover, it's not their company. Like
Yep.
Gary Vee talks about this. You can't expect someone making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year to give a shit and work as hard as you work when it's your livelihood.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that was a huge thing I had to get over when we first started. I would always say that, well, God, why did it take you guys so long? My brother and I could have done that in a half hour. Why did you take an hour and a half? It's like, well, they didn't know what my brother and I know. They didn't have 20 years of experience. They didn't have the right tools at the time. They didn't give a shit as much as we did, right? Like, and there's a price for that. It's no different. Like you look at, I love pizza reviews. I watch the shit out of pizza reviews. Shout out fucking Barstool Sports, Dave Portnoy, right? He always talks about it. When you walk into a family joint and you got the old man or the son making a pizza and he's the only one that makes the pizza, there's a reason why it tastes better. Because that is his heart and soul. And that's why they can afford to run out of dough, because he's the best pizza maker. He's the only one that makes the pizza. No one else does. As soon as you start hiring employees and go with the economics of scale, the quality goes down. I don't even eat pizza, and I love watching pizza reviews.
I was going to say ours, we've come to figure out roughly. See, that's why I was trying to figure out how to time it, because obviously Jobber lets you like start the timer. We've figured out that on average, the landfill is normally anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes away. And like you said, it takes about 30 minutes to do it. So between every job, if it's a full load, roughly for us is going to take 2 hours. So with that being said, if you have a job that is multiple loads, let's say
2 hours, hold on, 2 hours with or without the landfill, you're saying?
Included, yes. So literally from to the customer doing the job, and then to the landfill and finishing it, and then paying at the scale.
So you're basically saying you guys can load a full trailer in 1 hour, drive a half hour, unload in a half hour. So 2 hours from the start. Yeah. And I would say a couple things. You guys don't have basements, right? That's a huge thing. We have tons of stuff in basements. I don't know how big the properties are, but I always think of Florida, like the properties are smaller, right? Driveways, right? And I've also watched a lot of your guys' jobs. You guys do a lot of jobs where the stuff's curbside, in the driveway, in the garage, or like right in the front. I mean, it is, right? So you're right in the living room, right? And I also see you guys like, it's the two of you, right? It's two guys that want to do this, give a shit. So again, your math worked out perfect. I say it takes 2 hours. You say it takes 1 hour. 1 hour. And I also just said that with my brother and I, we can get jobs done twice as fast as the average person, because again, we're the two owners. So, all right. So you're at 2 hours, and I've seen some of your videos like, we made this much money, this much my landfill. Here's the profit. Awesome. Also not sustainable. The only way it's sustainable is if you give equity every single person you hire, and they're also financially incentivized. Now you can do it. You can do profit share and some other shit. You'll never be able to clip that fast though at scale.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So now let's talk about, so you're doing, let's say, a 3-trailer job. So what's the question?
So would you stop the timer each time in between, since that you still have to go to and from the landfill, or for you to your thing?
I send a bigger fucking truck.
Gotcha.
Or I send, right, that's it, right? I send a bigger truck, or I send multiple trucks.
Gotcha.
So like here's the deal. Like, so let's say a lot of our jobs are, let's say, a 3-trailer job. That's a pretty standard example. Okay, so 3-trailer job. Let's break it down Barney style. Okay, 3 trailers. We're looking at 12 man hours. So 2 guys, 6 hours of load and unload time, plus all your driving around in between. Okay, right? I realize you guys are at half that because you're the 2 owners. That's fine. Figure out your math for you. Okay, so let's go back to it. Break it down Barney style. Now, 12 man hours. If I send 3 guys, now I got 4 hours. If I send 4 guys, I got 3 hours. I send 6 guys, and now it takes me 2 hours. So that same job, 3-trailer job, if I send 3 trucks with 2 guys each, the job's done in 2 hours. Now I have 3 trucks that are full, right? And this is, again, with the assumption that they're all 1-trailer trucks, right? So now I can get the job done in 2 hours, and now I have to unload each truck. So how else do I build in efficiencies? Send 1 fucking 24-foot box truck with a lift gate that fits 3 trailers in it. Now I drive there. I only have to drive 1 time, right? So I would send, in a job like that, 3 trailers. Let's say I send 4 guys, 1 box truck. Now they're going to get that job done in 3 hours. 4 guys is going to take them about an hour to unload. So now that job, 3-trailer job, 8 to 11, I scheduled the job. 11 to 11:30, come to the warehouse. 11:30 to 12:30, they're at the warehouse unloading. 12:30 to 1, white space, drive time. 1 o'clock, I can be redispatched to another location. That's the other reason I like coming back to my warehouse. It is a known location to destination to next location. Right? Now, if that job was 2 trailers, well, I would do 2, and then I would go find another one on my way back home. Or route accordingly. Or sometimes you get like 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. So I'll do 2 in the morning, bang them out, 3-man team, right? Unload, and by 1 o'clock, I could be on the next 2-trailer job.
Gotcha. So with that being said, so it sounds like on average, like one crew basically does 2 to 3 jobs per day, roughly.
No, I never. Like load trailers. No, I don't. No, yeah, 2 to 3 trailers per day. Hell, yeah. I had Tommy, rest his soul. He's the employee we lost this year. He did 14 jobs one day.
Wow.
Why? Because he was a fucking man. Now, not a single job was more than a quarter trailer, and he was just banging them. I think half of them were like single items or like 2-item pickups. And he had like 11 jobs on the schedule to start the day, and he's like, I don't give a fuck. Keep adding them. Like he just was. It was like a Friday. He was in rare form. And it ended up being like those 14 jobs, it was like just over 2 trailers. Because not a single job was more than a quarter trailer. And it worked out. Like it was one of those, like the stars aligned. Everybody had flexibility in their schedule. And we added 3 jobs in the day of. Because it was like someone called, hey, there's a mattress in the alley. Yeah, bet. We're on our way. It was like, whatever. And yeah, he banged out 14 jobs. And it was like, and he came back. He's like, dude, it was like, he even said, he goes, dude, it was like the easiest day ever. Because he never was on location for more than 15 minutes. So it was like, work for 10 to 15 minutes, drive 10, 15 minutes. Work for 15 minutes, drive for 15 minutes.
Those are definitely my favorite jobs. The quick
exactly. Like, right. Like, dude, when you have, and I get like sometimes people will say like, hey, would your employees rather be, banging 8 small jobs a day or 2 big jobs or 1 big job a day? And I'm like, it depends what they did the day before. If the day before they were in a whole house, the next day they want to go do like 4 or 5 jobs or 8 jobs, right? If they've been running hard for 2-3 days, like 8 job days, they want 1 day where they can just fucking load. Because, right, 8 jobs, that's 8 times you got to drive, 8 times you got to hit the app, 8 times you got to call a customer, 8 times you got to take payment. It's all those things where it's like sometimes that wears on you versus I'm going to be in a house, I'm going to fill 1,000 buckets today, And we've had houses where spend 250, 300 buckets worth of material. It's like, that's cool for a day or 2, and then you want to get some of that windshield time.
Agreed. Yeah, and I've seen you guys busting out that. I mean, literally, you just have so many buckets and stuff. I'm like, that's wild. You guys definitely got it under wraps. For
sure. Dude, I got whatever we counted. It was like 600 cans we have. I have 2 acres here. I have like 300 cans extra that are chilling, but we keep about 300 cans in rotation on any given day. But yeah, there's when we go to a full house, if we're like, yeah, it's more than 100 cans, now we're getting in the weeds. I mean, we had a job earlier this year that was 27 trailers, and 24 of them, 22 to 24 of them were smalls. It was like 2-3 trailers of furniture. Everything else was smalls. And that was 8 trailers in the basement, 8 trailers in the second story. And the second story, not like, nice second story. This is like an attic converted into, 2 rooms. Oh, yeah. And it was almost all, again, it was lived in, it was a hoarding house. It was lived in hoarding. And it was, I think it's 120 buckets. I'd have to double check with Ian. I think it's 120 buckets we can fit. Actually, I'll do the math. I know we can go 4 wide. We can just do hillbilly math here. We can go 4 wide, 12 deep, 2 high. 96, that's what it was. I thought it was 120. But we can fit 96, so it's 100, call it, 100 garbage cans on our truck.
And
so
that just clicked in my mind too, because you guys use utility or box trucks. If you guys are leaving them in the cans to be sorted in at your warehouse, correct? You're not dumping them on the utility trailer. Gotcha. See, that's where I was like, okay, so that's
The only so we have 2 dump trucks and 1 dump trailer. And so if it's straight up, we call it MSW, municipal solid waste, then we're not gonna we'll dump the cans into our dump truck. A lot of time with hoarding house, we get a lot of clothes. And so clothes, as long as they're not soiled, we can recycle those. So we'll bring back garbage cans of clothes and then come back here and we'll literally bring Gaylords to the back of the truck, dump the garbage cans of clothes into the Gaylords. So now we're not wasting plastic bags. You can put a lot more weight into a garbage can than you can do in a plastic bag or a tub, right? And I've had jobs where we filled up 4 or 5 Gaylords of clothes on one job. We've even thought about putting Gaylords on our trucks. So that way we can just bring the cans up. The challenge is it becomes a stacking issue. So like when we do e-waste events, we have Gaylords in our trucks. We sort all the e-waste. So when we get back to our shop after, we just take the Gaylords off and then we put them in our warehouse and then we ship them out to their e-waste company our electronic recycling company when the time is right. It's all about those efficiencies. Yeah. And again, I started with a 700 square foot garage. So I have 27,000 square feet now. It's the efficiencies come over time. You got to come up with the best practices first. Find the best destinations, and then the practices come after. I've had people, hey, what's the best way to process scrap? I'm like, what does your scrapyard take? Well, I don't know. Well, cool, start there. Right? Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People talks about begin with the end state in mind. Where's it going? How do they want it? And then adjust accordingly. I have another company that wants to do. They want to do clothes. They only want to do garbage bags, and I'm like, okay, I got to spend 50 cents per bag. I have to bag it all. It doesn't fit in our process. Yeah, maybe we won't ship them clothes, even if the price per pound on clothes is more. The efficiencies of Gaylords is more effective. So it's like, I get paid more, but my costs are higher. I got to spend 50. I mean, you go to Depot and go pick up that, whatever is it, the 60 pack of Husky bags they get you for $40, right? You're spending 60, 70 cents per bag. Fuck that noise, right? Like I buy those things in bulk and I hate buying trash bags. I hate it. 56. I'm going to look it up right now because I used to buy them when they were on sale and now I'm like, screw it. We're not going to have trash bags unless it's like food waste or we have to because we just bin everything. Mm-hmm. Right. And worst case, if the bin gets bad, we'll get bad bins every now and not bad, but like food waste or something nasty gets in the bin. Take it out back and hit it with a pressure washer. Yeah. 42. Here we go. The 50 count, $30. My math was pretty close. There we go. It's still 60 cents. My math was fucking dead on. 42 gallon. It's 60 cents a bag. 60 cents a bag. Right.
We go Harbor Freight because of that reason. That's still
I fucking love Harbor Freight. Shout out Harbor Freight. If you want tools that will last like a beast for 6 months and then break on you, Harbor Freight. You know what? Go buy that $120. Here's the deal. You go buy a $100 dolly at Costco. It's going to break in a fucking month because it's aluminum. You go spend the $600 at Uline for a nice dolly. Maybe you get a couple years out of it. You go buy the $90 cheapie at Harbor Freight. You beat it up for 6 months, you chuck it, you get a new one. Harbor Freight.
Harbor Freight's the way.
Do not buy. Here's the deal. Do not buy. Actually, the other thing, this is a total life hack at Harbor Freight. If they offer a warranty, buy the warranty every time. You'll spend like $14 on a warranty for a $90 dolly. You can use that piece of paper in perpetuity to get new dollies. After like 6, they stop giving them to you. I can't remember what the number is. My brother used to do that shit. However, never buy power tools from Harbor Freight. They 100% like power tools. I'm a DeWalt guy. I was raised on yellow. I work for DeWalt. Milwaukee World Headquarters is 4 blocks from our shop. 4. When I go to lunch, the guys from Milwaukee are having lunch at the table next to me, and I will still fucking die on DeWalt, probably, because I love DeWalt. DeWalt tools are one of the few. I spend money on tools. That is because when you take care of your tools take care of you. And you get a Harbor Freight, like a recip saw, you maybe can cut a half a hot tub if you got to cut a hot tub up, for example, and that thing is done. It fucking puts out. It is smoking. It might bust into 1,000 pieces. Never buy Harbor Freight power tools. They might sue me. Fine. You can't buy that perspective.
So I don't know if Kyle has any questions, but I have one more that has to do with overhead. Do you include the cost per labor every day into your overhead costs, or is that separate?
You got to break it down. Well, you have your fixed costs, and right, so your overhead is your fixed cost, right, and then your labor is your variable cost.
Okay,
no, you have to factor. Yeah, you have to factor. Yeah, you have a lot of costs that are variable costs. So I factor in.
A better question would be for us as the owners, since we're W-2 and we're off, like it's the same base no matter what, every week or every 2 weeks we get paid. Should we include that into our overhead since it is a fixed cost?
Yes, it's a fixed cost. Also, are you S Corp right now?
No, we're going to transfer into one.
File for S Corp. Yeah. So shout out if you're an owner that is also getting a regular paycheck as a W-2, file as an S Corp.
Gotcha.
We talked about it on a previous episode. I did that. One of the first things I did. S Corp is the way to go. You get your taxes taken out early, and you don't have to pay as much towards the FICA and all that shit. You'll still get a K1, so you'll still get whatever the difference is between the money you made with the company versus what you paid yourself. You'll still get a K1, which is your the profitability of the business. For again, I'm not a fucking tax expert. I know numbers, not taxes. This is what I know. Become an S Corp. So you have to do like an S Corp declaration. You got to get that in by October 15th of the previous year. I know that because I think I know that. Whatever. I'll look it up here. Again, scrap. I'll hang my hat on this kind of shit. I'm like, this kind of makes sense. S Corp date. I'm just gonna type in due date. There we go. S Corp due date. Return 15th. Nope, that's when it's due. File. Try this. Or actually deadline. Yeah, S Corp filing deadline is March 15th, which it always is every year. Is there a deadline to file for S Corp? 15th of the third month following the end of the tax year. Yep. All right, everything I'm looking at date-wise is telling you when you have to file for it. I want to say October 15th you have to designate as an S Corp.
Gotcha. So we definitely I'm gonna hop on that for sure.
Yep. So this is where you're in a weird conundrum, because you are the employee. So what you have to do from a pro forma standpoint, right, as you think about how to project out, you got to figure out what the replacement cost of you is, right? So. Gotcha. First and foremost, however long it takes you to do something, double it.
Okay.
That's the hillbilly math, right? Mm-hmm. And factor whatever, look around. What are landscapers, other junk removal companies paying people to do similar things? You have to, this is the hillbilly math, 1.3 times wage. Okay, what I mean by 1.3 times wage, you got to pay them a wage. The 0.3 factors in workers' comp, which is about 10%. Most refuge, wherever, we're going to use 10% hillbilly math. And then you got to pay another 20 points to the U.S. government. And that's going to be Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and you also have to pay for their taxes. So for Social Security, for every $1 of Social Security they pay, you got to pay $1 of their Social Security. That's the way it is. I didn't fucking write the rules. So let's take a $20 an hour employee. Okay? Hillbilly math means he's going to cost you $26 an hour. That's going to be your cost.
Gotcha.
Also, He works half as hard as you because they're fucking employees. And I mean that with all, right? When I was an employee, I didn't fucking kill myself as much as the owner. I didn't, right? I punched out. I stopped thinking. I worked concrete for years. I didn't even, when I was working concrete, I wasn't thinking. I was thinking about the college paper I was about to write that night. I was not thinking about the dirt I was putting in a hole, right? I was not thinking about the profitability of said dirt. I was not thinking about the next job that we need to win to stay in business because I was of the employee. I got paid to put dirt in a hole. I was really good at it. Got it. So now that employee, $26 an hour, again, $20 I'm using because it makes my math simpler because I'm not looking to try to be a math magician here. I want to demonstrate a point. He's half as efficient as you, which means you right now at a hillbilly math are worth $52 an hour to the business when you're working in the business. That's what you're worth. Gotcha. So that means you're worth at least that out of the business. So if you can do something, revenue generating technique, that you're worth more than $52 an hour, go do that and hire somebody else out to do that other thing.
Gotcha.
Right? So if y'all are paying yourselves $20 an hour, right, $40,000 a year, it's not that you're not going to get the same value as a $20 an hour employee.
Yeah, we're definitely, just because I know we want to grow the company, so we're definitely taking the low end right now. I think we're paying each other ourselves like $30K, $31K, like literally just.
Which is totally average. Like that's 30, 35 is like the median, right? You're making $15 an hour, right, theoretically, and that's fine. It makes enough to pay your bills. I say you pay, right, Profit First, Mike McCallowitz. We had him on for a 20-minute emergency broadcast episode. Okay, right? Pay yourself something. Pay yourself enough to eat and give yourself raises every year. I also see guys that are like, I'm going to start paying myself $80,000 the first year. And then it's like, cool. What money are you going to use to fund your business?
Yeah.
Right.
Or anything. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Your operating income. And like, not a rhetorical question. If someone's like, well, I got a wife and 3 kids, I need to make $80K a year. I'm like, cool, get a fucking job. Right. Because maybe entrepreneurship isn't the best fit for you in junk removal. If you need to make $80K, the math ain't great.
Yep.
Go sell insurance. I don't know. Like there's other jobs where you can walk into an $80,000 a year job. Junk removal historically ain't one of them. Now you can go make $100,000 a year by banging jobs and having your friend, relative, neighbor help you. You can easily make $100,000 a year. The challenge is you are the company.
Yeah. That's what I remember. So it was probably still like December, early January when I heard Casey talking about that on one of the podcasts. I remember specifically, I was like, because I used to work at a lawn care job and I was out there on the mower, and he was talking about how someone that he knew, or maybe it was one of his clients, had done 150K in his first year and like, for himself took like 80, 90K. And he was like, that's fine if you're just trying to do that. But then he mentioned like, even for myself, like I had to lower his pay to like 33 or 34. I can't remember what Casey said exactly, but he took a lower amount so he could afford to dump more money into the business and be able to scale it. And most people, like when you're growing the business, most people don't want to realize or accept that they have to take a pay cut at first in order to scale, so then that they can increase their pay, in the future.
I have this. So I also support military members when they're leaving the military, right? So let's say you're making $80,000 in the military. I can tell you this, you're not worth $80,000 in the civilian world because you just spent 20 years learning how to do something. And now you have to go jump into a whole nother world, whether it's entrepreneurship or employment, and you're not worth $80,000. You might be worth $60,000 and you can get to 100 in 3 to 5 years. You're not worth 80 today. Because it's a different thing, right? What you are worth to the civilian world in a corporation is not what you're worth day one in entrepreneurship. There's a guy I'm in a CEO roundtable with. Really, he's very successful. He was making good money. He was a project manager. He was traveling all over the place. And him and his wife decided, nope, I'm going to go into business for myself. He started a general contracting business. 3 kids. And he talks about his first summer, they lived in their basement because they didn't turn on the AC. Right? And that's what it took, because it's like, hey, what are you willing to give up to get that job? And that's what it took. I have one of my consulting clients. I'll shout them out, Rick and Rachel of Awesome Rachel, their demolition and deconstruction business outside the Nashville area. So Rick and Rachel, one time, like they were in a tough spot. They had started their business. Money hadn't been coming in yet. And I said to Rick, I said, you got two choices. Would you rather go work at Home Depot for 16, 17 bucks an hour, which is probably what he's worth because he's a smart guy, or would you rather get paid nothing to start cold calling? He's like, fuck it. He took a list of 900 names, started cold calling. The fourth random number he called is their number one customer after a year and a half. Why? Because he was willing to get paid nothing to sit there and dial for dollars. And Rick he's not the most likable person. He is not the face of the organization, right? Like the business is called Awesome Rachel, which is his wife, and she's, she has her shit together. She's well articulate and she can talk. Rick is a doer. And he said, I'd rather do something I hate doing, cold calling, than go walking up down the aisles at Home Depot selling tools.
Agreed. I agree, man.
Right? So you have to play, right? You got to play the old game. Would you rather? So would you rather make, $100,000 a year and have a job, J-O-B, or would you rather make $30,000 a year and go chase a dream?
Yes. And know that
there's Taylor, there's your fucking episode title. There's your fucking episode title. It took us an hour and 48 minutes to get there. There's your episode title. Would you rather make $100,000 at a job or $30,000 to chase a dream? And that's a question you got to ask yourself. Because someone will be like, no, fuck that. I don't want to make 30 grand. Okay. Then
that's fine, yeah. It's like entrepreneurship isn't for you then, because it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a grind getting into it.
You better find something about your job you love. I wouldn't want to go. I did that. I had a job where I made good money. I went there every day and I hated it. And I counted down the clock until it was done. Now, shit, last night it was like 11:30. No, it was like quarter 11, because I was in bed by 11. So I'm been pretty disciplined about it. 10:30 rather. About 10:30, and I was like, man, I just need like 10 more minutes, 15 more minutes, because I was so excited about what I was doing. I was working late. Right. And I was pounding the keys, and I'm like, there's some people got blown up an email last night about 10:30, quarter 11 last night, right? Because I had an idea and I just pulled up my Excel spreadsheet and started cranking numbers. Like I wanted more time with respect to also going to bed at a reasonable time and everything else, right? I wanted more time in my day. A lot of people go to the clock and they're waiting to punch the clock and get out of work. That sounds exhausting and miserable. I never want that again. I had it. I never want that again.
Agreed. I've been there. I think we all have,
we all have.
One question I just have for you actually is, because I just want to know the differences and when they started. So when did Camo Crew and Green Up Solutions become a thing, as far as were they always separate, or how did they come about being different companies?
So we'll break down my origin story. Basically 3 times in my life. Growing up as a kid, I drove around with my dad, nice neighborhoods, day before trash day, picking stuff up. So I had that seed planted. I would take things apart in the driveway. And my dad, to this day, he has scrap and shit everywhere and still scraps. My dad's 67 years old, still takes apart windows once a month on a Saturday, takes apart doors and windows because he puts doors and windows in for a living. So he has a stockpile and sits there and takes them apart. Fine. So that's how I grew up. So I had it in my head. 2009, I'd come home from Iraq in 7. I fucked off for a year. Then I got a job, bought a house. I got laid off 2 days before Christmas in 2008. January of 2009, I started driving around my parents, the family van, and this old trailer my dad had. And I spent 6 months basically driving around, picking up scrap on the side of the road, and I called myself the Clutter Busters. I had flyers. I put them in realtors' mailboxes, at their house, because I didn't know what I was doing. And Google Google was there. It did not have nearly the information. YouTube wasn't even a thing yet, whatever. And so I had these green flyers and a business card. That was my entire business. I did that for a couple of years. I did a job for a guy who did hazardous waste. He hooked me up with another guy, and I got a job offer from Waste Management. So I wasn't even looking for a job, and I got a job offer. I was like, that's sweet. So my brother took over Clutter Busters, and then I went and took the job. I worked for Waste Management for a couple of years, deployed again. I got back home from my deployment. I said, before I even left from my deployment, we wrote down Green Up Solutions on a napkin at my parents' table. And so for the next year, my brother basically worked on Clutter Busters in the business and figured out all the tactical stuff. February of 19, we filed our LLC for Clutter Busters, for Green Up Solutions. So I went 7 years without an LLC. So when I tell people yeah, I've done it, 100%. Clutter Busters was a business card. Write checks to Andy Weins or cash is also cool. Right? It worked. Fine. No insurance, no LLC, no taxes, whatever. It's been 7 years. IRS can't come after my ass no more. Fine. 2016, filed for LLC, February 19th of 16. During that time, I was writing a business plan and saying, okay, how do we launch this junk removal company? We decided to buy junk removal franchises. So we got into junk removal franchise. I talk about it. Terrible company. Would not recommend. However, Green Up Solutions bought the franchises. So Green Up Solutions was the owner of the franchises. And then over time, we had to get another LLC for the franchises. It was legal bullshit. Fine. So Green Up Solutions always existed. And I had also done things before I got involved with JDog as Green Up Solutions. So I'd already taken some jobs on, generated some revenue. So everything that wasn't junk removal still stayed in Green Up Solutions. So I did some consulting and some other things. And then we also had to use Green Up Solutions to buy our building and to get government contracts because we couldn't do it under a franchise name. So there was that entity. I got out of JDog in February of 20. I sold the assets. It was an asset sale to my best friend. He started Camel Crew. So he started Camel Crew. He ran it for 2 years. As soon as my non-compete was over, he wanted to get out of junk removal. He sold me, at this point, it was a complete company sale. So it wasn't only the assets, it was also the name, the brand, logos, everything. So I bought that from him. That had been March of 2022. So I've been back at it now 18 months. And so now Green Up Solutions has its own EIN, and then Camel Crew has its own EIN. And the relationship between the two is Green Up Solutions is a consulting company, and one of its main customers is Camel Crew Junk Removal, right? And that's how I get paid, per se, because I'm not an employee of Camel Crew. It makes, again, this is more tax shit. It makes more sense that way. I also own a building that has its own EIN, right? I keep everything as separate as possible so that it's like someday, because Camel Crew, for example, the president of our company, he has equity, right? So that comes directly from my equity within Camel Crew, doesn't impact Green Up Solutions whatsoever. So there's reasons for that. Again, I'm going way in depth on that. And for me, everything I've talked to as far as accountants and lawyers, especially insurance people, is you want as many layers of protection as possible. So if something would happen to Camel Crew, they can't come up to Green Up, and vice versa. And that's why I do consulting, or even my book. When I sell books, it goes under Green Up Solutions, because that revenue, I'm not going to claim it as Andy Weins revenue, right? I want to claim it as business revenue, and my book is still in the consulting, right? People pay me to say words and write them down sometimes, right? Like it's all in the sphere, right? Green Up Solutions consulting is like, it's a catch-all for all the random shit I do. That's what it comes down to. Like, and also in the meanwhile, like when I had the Rage Room, I started under Green Up Solutions and eventually got its own EIN. I had Antidote Media Company. At one point, Antidote Media was Green Up Solution or Green Up Media. That was the name of our media arm when we did videos for other people. And then eventually I'm like, this is kind of muddy. So I created Antidote Media Group, and I had my own media company, and it had its own EIN. So once you start doing something that's no longer that has it, basically, once you have your own P&L, once you have your own expenses and employees, then I silo it. Moving forward, I don't have a need to do that. Camel Crew is its own entity. I'm not tied to a franchise. My contracts are written through Camel Crew. The assholes in Philadelphia can't come after me for shit. Fuck JDog. I'll just throw that in there, right? If someone's listening for 2 hours, they already know that whole story. The whole reason we started the podcast was to fight the franchises, because we saw one franchise fuck over a lot of veterans. That's as blunt as I can say it. If you want to read more, because you don't want to hear me bitching, go to unhappyfranchisee.com and you can read all about why JDog is terrible.
Gotcha. Bro, that's awesome.
That's it. I mean, I don't know if like that's it. Like I'm here to protect the people because again, it's no different than what we talked about with the CRTs. It's like, knowledge is the key to freedom, and when people have the knowledge, then they can go and do their own thing.
That's something ever since watching all the podcasts, that's something I always wondered, because I knew there was a difference in the companies, but I definitely wanted to figure that out for you. That's really cool.
Yeah, I really invest. I found out early in business that the on the business stuff wasn't sexy. The accounting, the lawyers, the legalese, the this, the that. And my brother kicked ass at banging jobs. So I'm like, okay, if he's really good at this, I got to get smart on the business side of things. And almost every time I went to a seminar or a session or a conference or even networking events, people were basically like, oh yeah, my books are all fucked up, or yeah, I couldn't scale because of this reason or that. It was all on the business. No one wanted to work on the business. They wanted to work in the business.
Yep.
Right. So even the fact that you guys are obsessed with marketing, like awesome. Like you can do both. You can do both at the same time. And so you got to work on the business. When you want to scale, you got to work on the business. And then for me, I took those same philosophies. I teach this course called the 6 buckets of business, and I break down business into 6 buckets. And I found out really quick, everyone has a high 3 and a low 3. And so when you have your high 3 buckets, so the 6 buckets are sales, marketing, operations, the thing you do, resources that are human, and the numbers. And so I focus on what are my high 3, and it's sales, operations, and the numbers. So that means I got to find somebody else to do the marketing. I have to somebody else to do the junk removal itself, and somebody else to do the resources that are human, be the people person. And so now I hire for my strengths. I have strengths, and I got to hire people that also have strengths that complement my strengths. I don't need to hire another Andy. Like, we're full up. We got plenty of Andys. He's fucking awesome, right? We need someone else to fill the other fighting positions that I won't, or that aren't as natural a fit for me. And that's how you scale business. You got to find, like, if you guys kick ass at marketing, right? Then find someone, like, and if neither one of you guys are good at sales, find a way to get more sales. If you're good on sales, cool. If you're like, from what I'm hearing a little bit, like, you're asking questions about operations because right now you guys haven't done anything about operations. It's like, oh yeah, you guys just go bang jobs and you'll get to the next customer when you get there. And you kind of figure out timing. You don't have it down to a science yet where it's repeatable with employees. And I can tell you, you can write your operations. We talked about this a lot of episodes. Write down all your SOPs, the best way of doing things now, because you're going to forget to teach a lot of shit to your employees because it's almost become natural and repetitive. And you got to write that shit down.
Agreed. Just because of that, I know I watched an interview you did with maybe like 4 or 5 episodes ago or something, but it was about basically same thing you said earlier, dealing with the end in mind. So just literally documenting and keeping track of all the numbers. And so to date, I would just like to share with you, we have actually gotten rid of 38,000 pounds, and 38,780 pounds of metal has gone to the scrapyard. And we've gotten roughly $2,800 from that to date. And then our monthly dump fees, I don't have August pulled up or included in this, but we have taken a total of 83 trips to the landfill, 109,000 pounds of trash, which is 54 tons. And then roughly we've spent $1,600 going to the landfill. And then our average cost is actually $19.50 to dump.
All right. So give me those scrap numbers again. 37,400.
Oh, let me pull it up again, my bad. Scrap metal, the weight we've gotten rid of at the scrapyard, 38,780.
38,780. And how much? You had $2,900 from that?
Yeah, roughly.
Okay. I like it. Do you have any idea how many jobs you've done?
So
do you have a number?
At first, so I literally only have track of 35 jobs that we've done. We've definitely done more than that. But of those 35 jobs that we've done, they were mainly bigger jobs, and it came out to a total of $30,000-ish, and our average job price is $873.
And those jobs are above average for your average for what you right. Just knowing your business. Okay, what are you using to track your jobs and all that shit?
So we've been using Jobber a little bit now, but man, I'm using like numbers with like max.
Yeah,
Excel.
Use Jobber. Fine. I got the plug. You said use Jobber. Good, done. And that was what I was going to say. That's the answer. Is get Jobber. Get an operation software. All right. So this is interesting. All right. So 83 jobs, 1,000 pound or 100,000. No.
We've got 83.
Yeah, 100,000. 83 trips to the landfill, and 109,000 pounds.
Yes.
So your average trip to the landfill is about 1,300 pounds, and which makes sense because one trailer it's a little bit lighter. One trailer normally is around 1 ton, so around 2,000 pounds.
Like we have a 5x10. We should have got a bigger thing out the gate, but we got a pretty small dump trailer with a 4-foot size.
All right. So do you know how to do you know your cubic yardage on that?
We're roughly like 6.83. I just rounded up to 7.
5 by 8 by
4.
or no, 5 by 10 by 4, 200. All right, now everything's starting to make a little more sense to me. Yep, yeah, you're 7.4 cubic yards.
Okay, I'm
so
over. Okay.
The math. So there you go. So the math is 5 foot times 10 foot times 4 foot. It's 200 square feet. Divide 200 square feet by 27, because 27 is 3 times 3 times 3, which is 1 cubic yard. So you get 7.4 cubic yards. So we'll make it 7.5 to make it easier. So yeah, 7.5. Now I'm going to reverse engineer the math. So you're getting 1,300 pounds per load at 7.5. Yeah, your numbers are almost dead on. Okay. So you're getting 175 pounds per cubic yard. What the hell? All of a sudden my fucking... Oh, that's stupid. And then my numbers lock on or something. I don't know what hell happened. All right. I hit my numbers lock. All right. Times 16. I'm just doing fucking math because I fucking love math.
I've definitely gotten more into math since.
Yeah, so you're averaging 1.4 tons per 16 cubic yards.
Gotcha.
So yeah, you have a small trailer, you're packing it on pretty tight. Again, general waste is right around a ton. 1.4, you're packing it on pretty tight. All right, now let's take this. So I'm going to take your $2,900 dollars divided by your 38,000 pounds of scrap. You're averaging about 7.5 cents per pound.
Okay.
So again, that's 140 a ton. Let me just do the exact math. 149.50. So you're averaging 150 a ton, which is about what scrap prices are in this area. So you're not sorting; it's just straight sheet iron pricing or tin. Yep, and that's fine. So 150 a ton, that makes sense. Your tonnage per load is great, and then your price. You spent $1,600 at the landfill. You said, is that correct?
Yeah, in total.
Yeah.
So far.
Yeah, that makes me want to throw up. Because so you spend. No, that's right. I did my math fucked up. Hold on a second. There we go. I got to do. I'm getting there. All right. 109. Yeah. So yeah, you've taken a total of 54.5 tons. Now that makes more sense.
What does it cost per ton for you to dispose up there?
A hell of a lot more than what you're paying. Let me tell you something.
That's what I was wondering. I was like,
so you spent. So you said $1,600.
Yes,
$1,600.
1618. Yeah, $1,618.
So you spend about $20 every time you go to landfill.
Yeah, roughly. $19.50 is our average right now until we add August to that.
Okay, so $19.50. Actually, I can just do your total. $1,600. I got to figure out. Yeah. Yeah, it's disgusting how much you guys don't pay. I'm trying to figure. My math is jacked up somewhere. So 54 16. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so you are paying $30 a ton, basically.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah.
Okay, so for me, it's $50 for me to drive in, $60 a ton, plus tax.
Wow.
So right, and if I go to like a transfer station, it's anywhere between $75 and $100 a ton.
That's crazy, man.
So, yeah. So the fact that you're at $30 a ton, and what is it, like an 800-pound minimum or 1 ton minimum, or is there even a minimum?
There's no minimum. We paid as low as $4 taking a hot tub.
Yeah. So me to dispose of a hot tub, one hot tub, is $115 for me to drive one hot tub in the landfill because we have a 1 ton minimum.
Gotcha.
So I'll take 5 hot tubs at a time, but that means I have to bring them back here, set them down, get 5 of them, spend probably about an hour-ish loading them up with my forklift, right, fixed cost, onto a truck to drive up to landfill, and then 5 hot tubs, probably about $150, right? So I'm paying $30 a hot tub. So this is why all things aren't equal. You're spending $4 a hot tub that you only have to load and unload once. I spend $30 a hot tub that I have to load and unload at least twice.
Yes.
So I do love the numbers. And yeah, so get Jobber, track all your jobs. You're saying your average job is $800. That's on the high end. Yeah, average job. Again, I don't know. Well, what do you hold on? Let me break this down. What do you charge? We need to talk about this. Full, half. What do you charge for your truck?
So we do 5 price points right now, from minimum, quarter, half, 3/4, and full. And so we do $115 for a minimum pickup, and then $150, and we just go straight up the whole way. $150, $250, $350, $450.
You got pretty good margins then, because your truck is so fucking small.
That's what I learned about. I think it was JRA was talking about that. He's like, when you say, just say you got a big trailer, because it still fits a lot, but people will undervalue.
Yeah, no. So you're paying. Yeah, so straight away, if I just right, you're charging $75 a cubic yard on your 2, and you're charging $56 a cubic yard on your full trailer. I run it up to 8 because chances are there's some shit sticking up the top, and I'm not right. So 2, 4, 6, 8. You could argue that your trailer is 8 cubic yards. Do you ever throw shit in the bed? Do you charge extra for the bed?
So we do, but we normally will do metal in the bed, and then
sort. Yeah, you sort. Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and again, that's the redneck way of doing business, and I mean that with all fucking love, right? Y'all West Virginia boys living down there in Florida, rednecks is what y'all do. But that's as simple. Like, if that's all you sort, trash and scrap, you got 2 containers. One's a trailer, one's a truck.
Yep.
Right. Mm-hmm. What you're doing, I mean, it's you're doing the thing. I can't. Here's the deal. I don't fault success. I mean, I have a spreadsheet full of numbers right now. As soon as you were like, "Hey, let me get your numbers," I busted an Excel spreadsheet and started typing, because that's what I get off to, right? And again, like, this is how we figure out this market. There was somebody in the Panhandle that's like $14 a fucking ton to go to scrap or the landfill. It's like, I'll be honest, I'd be tempted to take everything to the fucking landfill at that price, right? Because we like, from day one in our business, we had built-in necessity to take things to donation, because the cost was too high to dispose. Up in Minnesota, when they're charging $75 a fucking sofa sleeper, like, man, you're going to get real smart real quick. So I don't fault you. I fault the state of Florida. Y'all got alligators living on couches and shit or something. I don't know how y'all do things down there.
That's crazy.
It would be easy to just say, okay, screw it all and take it all, but it's like, even to me, it's like, we could save that, we could save this, and it really, like, it gives me that, like, pit in my stomach where I feel like I'm not doing the environment a good service if I just would take everything.
Right. Yeah, and that's my challenge to you guys, is find a couple donation centers, where you can donate some furniture every now and then, and start with what you can. Right, you're already doing the scrap.
We are reselling good items too. We resell all good items.
Yeah. And I'll put this disclaimer out there when it comes to resale. It's real simple. The state of Wisconsin, for example, and this is generally accepted in most states, is once something enters your truck, once it's on your truck, it becomes your property. It's your asset or your liability, right? If you load up something from somebody's house, you drive down the road and it falls off and it fucking creates an accident, that's on you. Same token, if you take and go sell it, that's you. So there's some people like, oh, it's bad to sell. The reason I hate selling is because I don't like selling shit. I'm not interested in it. It doesn't excite me. I'd rather let Habitat of Humanity or Goodwill or St. Vinny's or name that thrift store sell the shit. Because I'm not interested in the selling of it. I am interested in keeping it on the landfill. So I've had people like, oh, isn't that bad that people are reselling other people's stuff? It's like, well, hold on. Let me break this down Barney style. One person paid to get rid of it because they didn't want it. One person got paid to pick it up because they're willing to put the work in. And one person paid to get it. That sounds like a win-win-win. And it didn't go in the landfill. So,
and people.
So again, the reason I'm against resale is 100% personal, biased. I don't like doing it. That's it.
And on all three of those, you don't have the person that is needing to get it rid of. They don't have a gun to the head where you're like, you better choose me. The person that sells it, it's a choice whether they sell it or not. And the person that buys it, it's a choice. You don't have to buy it if you don't want it. If you don't like the price or you don't want to buy it.
It's and again, it's reverse logistics industry, right? It's no different than we take a raw good, you get it to a distributor, who gives it to a retailer, who gives it to an end consumer. Everybody got paid, and everyone along the way. The consumer didn't want a fucking tree; they wanted a chair. Well, the manufacturer had to make the chair. The manufacturer had to get to a distributor, who had to get to a retailer to sell the fucking chair to the person, right? Everyone won along the way. Now, when that chair, then the homeowner no longer wants that chair, they got to pay someone to get rid of it. And if that person can find someone else that wants to buy that chair, good. That's one less tree we got to cut down. Right? That is what a circular economy is all about.
Agreed.
So, and then your resale, again, this is where we talked about separate EINs. There's some people that make as much, if not more, money doing resale than they do junk removal. That's about the time that you start creating a new EIN or a new business, or at least a different profit loss statement, so you can see if you're actually making money doing it. Gotcha. I know that we were making money doing resale, and then I actually created a profit and loss statement. And I was like, man, we weren't making that much money because we still had to staff it. I also charge rent to the space. It's like, well, hold on. Why did we spend all this money to do resale when it wasn't nearly as lucrative, right? Someone's like, oh, it's going to be like 90% profit. No, it was like 30% profit, and it paid in my ass every week. Yep. It was every other week we had a resale shop. Or we'd open the door for the shop. And it was like 25, 30% profitable. And that was on a good sale. Sometimes we would lose money on sales. I'm like, this is stupid. So yeah, it was, $40,000, $50,000 a year. At the end of the day, it wasn't worth the $8,000 to $10,000 I might make if everything goes right.
Yeah, exactly. Regarding that, I know we could talk about shit forever. I have what do you think about this idea? Because when it gets into resale, when we get space and stuff, this is the one idea I had to better help the community, is creating a pay what you want thrift store within reason. So you go to Goodwill and you want to get 50 clothes, 50 shirts, they're $3 a shirt. You come to us and we have a big rack of clothes or whatever, and you can, as basically within reason, you can get 50 shirts for $15, $20 rather, and that way you can help other businesses build up their business, and you're still making that little bit of profit on it.
It's a terrible idea.
Think so?
Yeah, because within reason is subjective to every single person that walks in. So here's my argument. There's a food bank nearby that I visited a couple weeks back. They take in food, mostly, or not mostly, but a lot of it's stuff that's going to get expired, or they get stuff from grants or donations, whatever.
Yep.
And they are basically no questions asked food bank. A lot of other food banks are going to ask proof of income, proof of this, whatever. This food bank, all you got to do is go on the website, put your name, address, phone number, city, state, zip, and they'll get you in queue, and they say, okay, you can come once a week. All they do is weigh the amount of food you take. I stood there and watched. I saw some people being like, oh, we really don't need that. We're only going to take what we need. I seen this other guy, 2 fold carts, well-dressed, didn't look like he needed anything. They took mostly meat, right? And I was so twitchy. And the executive director was like, hey, if we say it's available to everybody, it's available to everybody. And so, right? And so now I'm like, what the fuck? Why am I going to the grocery store spending $100, $150 when these people can walk in and take this shit for free? And they're well established, right? But then she's like, well, you don't know. Maybe that's their only one nice outfit. Maybe they're on hard times. Maybe they're upside down on their mortgage. And I'm like, man, and again, this is why I'm not in the nonprofit world. So it's a terrible idea because you're asking people to be reasonable, right? And one person's reasonable is not the same as another person. Now, here's what's interesting, and I've thought about this too, is we've talked about this, Ken and I at our shop. What if we just did every Saturday, doors open, take what you want? Take what you want, free rummage.
I like
right?
that.
And then this is the way I would run it. If I would do this, right, this is my recommendation. At the end, as people are checking out, you say, hey, would you like to make a donation or not?
I like that.
Right?
I like that.
because now, right, you might have one person that finds a kick-ass t-shirt and is like, dude, here's $50. Fuck yeah, I'm so happy. You have another person that comes in, grabs fucking 20 t-shirts and walks out and gives you a smile. Either way, everyone wins.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I like that.
And the other thing, this is something I learned recently at a Young Guns event. Shout out Young Guns, which is a networking event I put on here in the Milwaukee area every quarter. Brandon Fong, who was a guest on this podcast one time, he talks about he teaches this part of his class as to there was a research study done where they were getting donations for this charity, and it was like in person, emails, phone calls. They did all these different studies, and the one thing that increased donations by double was at the very end they would ask, "Hey," something to the effect of, "Hey, it's totally up to you. We're happy either way, yes or no. Would you like to make a donate?" What you do is you gave people an automatic out so they felt empowered, double their donations.
That's
so you make it very clear, hey, it's totally up to you either way, yes or no. Not broad, hey, your donations help the cause, or we really appreciate a donation, or suggested donation. No, would you like a donation, yes or no? And then, second part to it, let's talk about where the donations are going, right? If you're like, hey, we got to pay rent this month, it's $1,000. Everything beyond $1,000 we donate to this place, and right now we're at $800, right? People want to see the incremental change. Like, hey, would you like to make a donation, yes or no? Because we got bills to pay, and make it very clear. Like, this is the thing. Mm-hmm. So they're like, oh yeah, dude, I'll do $20. That gets us over the line. Fuck yeah, let's go. $20, whatever.
I like that. That's a great idea. Honestly, I really like that.
Yeah, so it's a win. It's a win-win.
Agreed.
And that way, you might have some regular customers that come in because they're going to go buy shit at their thrift store, and they might be like, "Hey, actually, like I did really well last week on some of the merchandise I got from here, so I'm going to throw you $50 because I want you to stay in business."
Yeah, they want to keep coming in. Yeah,
provide the value first, and everything else comes last.
That's the fucking life lesson right there. Right, provide value first. Right, give before you take.
Mm-hmm.
It's no different than this podcast, right? We have this podcast. It costs money to have this podcast, and when we choose to give away all the answers versus taking, that's why I'm anti the fucking people. Like you talked about that PDF that you put together, and it's like, hey, this is what I think I know, and you know what? That's pretty badass because you're giving before you're asking. Versus much of those guys out there that are selling classes or selling franchises or selling logos, when it's like, well, what the fuck did you give first? What did you do to provide good for this industry or humanity or whatever, right? Now, that's my challenge to everybody. Give first.
Just on that, I will touch, I do have a paid course as well, but I don't push it as hard, and it's only because it's everything that's got us so far, and I do feel like that's worth something. But that's why I wanted to create the free PDF and get the value, and I've had actually 1,900 downloads on the free PDF.
There you go. And that's the thing. You gave something first, right? That's awesome. So that's 1,900 people that got smarter because of it. It's no different. Casey and I do coaching and consulting. I do more consulting. Like I'm in the, hey, you got to fuck off project. I'll figure it out for you. Casey does the more, hey, how to grow and scale your business, right? And we don't talk about it that much because even before we had the podcast, people would call me randomly like, hey, can I hire you to solve my problems or like run my books or whatever? And I did it because my time is worth something. I enjoy doing it. Like I just ran your numbers for shits and giggles because it's interesting and other people can find value from it. Mm-hmm. And numbers never lie. Unlike ex-wives.
Damn, this has been a great episode.
We might. I don't know. I got to talk to Kate. I got to talk to Casey and Taylor, our producer. I'm gonna have to cut this fucker into two. Casey's no, seriously. Casey's been gone. Casey's been gone for a whole hour. That's fine. You know what? That's what we're gonna do. Taylor, I just made the executive decision. When Casey gave his takeaways, that'll be episode 1, and then we'll do the fucking Andy, Kyle, Logan Power Hour episode 2. So, all right, welcome to episode 70. What the fuck? Here we go. We're just gonna do the plug right now, or I don't even know. Taylor, what? I clicked the button. What episode number is it? It's a mystery. Welcome to episode 75, part 2 of the Logan, Andy, and Kyle experience here on the Trash Talk Business Podcast. I don't know when he's gonna clip that in. There's our soundbite. Now we have that. Now we can go back to work.
That's awesome.
There you go. That's literally how I do life. Like Taylor always, I'll try to tee things up for Taylor sometimes. Like, hey man, he's like, dude, just hit record. I will clean it up all later. I'm like, all right, good, thank you. He's just like stuck his head in here because
Taylor's a goat. Thank you, Taylor.
Episode 74, part 2. No, I want to have 75. I want to have that way. We're not going to do 74, part 2. What is this? Bad fucking Game of Thrones episode? I don't even know. All right. Now that we have that cut in, actually leave it in, like put it at the beginning and then also leave it in where it sits in the episode. Because then when I'm talking about this, people are like, oh,
it makes sense.
Yeah, when we say transparency is key, we fucking live by it. Like that's the. And here I'll put another thing in. So Casey gave his takeaway. All right, so I'm gonna do the hey Case, awesome takeaway. If you want to find out more about these two great cats and myself, we got another episode, part 2, The Deuce, episode 75, coming up next week. There we go. There's our out for that.
Doing it live.
Live-ish. Yeah. Again, this is like there's nothing we record before or after the episodes. It is everything there. Very okay. I think we've cut out one or two things in the entire time we've done this podcast. One or two things that got what are way off topic or were inaccurate or whatever that we cut. Otherwise, if you see any cuts, everything else that's cut is because of fucking technology. Because Casey's God knows somewhere and has shit fucking Wi-Fi. That's about the only time we have to cut episodes is when they literally cut off on us. All right, getting to it. Let's talk top takeaways from. At this point, it doesn't even matter if we do session 1, session 2. Let's start. Kyle, top takeaways from today's episodes.
Well, dude, I've learned so much. Yeah, where it's been, it's like 2 hours, but really, I wish I'd learned this before. But top takeaways, especially towards the end, like the numbers, like you said, numbers do matter, and when it all comes down to it, and when it comes to disposing all the items, like I just learned, do what's right, and that's my 2 top takeaways.
Cool. So that's probably going to be book number 3. So for book number 1, Words Fucking Matter, available on Amazon. Get your copy. Logan quoted it, right? We're not thinking or talking or trying. We're fucking doing.
Yep.
So that either you read the book or you heard me rant at some point. Book number 2 that I'm writing is called Phrases Fucking Matter, and talking about the phrases I use to win the day. And then book number 3 is Numbers Fucking Matter, and it's the 6 buckets of business. Start with the end state in mind, which is numbers. And then I'm going to be as the guy that, things fucking matter guy someday, maybe. Because originally I wrote, it's on my whiteboard here, phrases to win the day. And I told that to one of my mentors. He goes, that's a weak fucking title. He goes, you wrote a book called Words Fucking Matter, and your next one to be phrases to win the day. And this guy's like mid-50s, conservative Republican, soft-ass motherfucker. And he's like, yeah, that's soft. Like that ain't on brand. I'm like, all right. So I guess, and the phrases is going to be blue, and the numbers is going to be green. And then maybe at some point I'll have a whole Roy G. Biff color line of books, like things that fucking matter in life. Maybe things that fucking matter. And it's just totally random.
I'll have them all on my bookshelf.
There you go. All right, Logan, top takeaway from today.
My biggest takeaway would be 1 or 2. I got 2. 1 is to just do more research, regarding recycling and disposal, and see if, as you said, if you're getting a lot of something, see if there's an additional or alternative way to dispose rather than just taking it always to the landfill, especially if you know it's not that good for the environment in the first place. So I definitely learned a lot, especially regarding the tube TVs and light bulbs I did not think about ever, because we've never ran into something like that. And then I think the most important takeaway for me would be what you do today does fucking matter 6 months, a year down the line. And the same thing goes for what you don't do today does matter. So you want to see your company be as big as you want, as you dream, you have to put in the fucking action, and you have to stay consistent with it. You can't get busy and then back off the pedal, because then you're just going to fall right into the same spot you were at.
Yeah, no, I and that's good to hear, right? Top takeaway I learned from you guys is that, right, like the entrepreneurial drive is still alive and well. The fact you guys have an origin story, that's a story worth telling. Also, what I took away, because I had this conversation with Taylor before the podcast, where I do the scrapping thing, and I do the junk removal thing. I wrote a book, and I often think, like, do I need these separate channels or these separate identities of who I am? And one thing I learned from you, Logan, and you really doubled down on it, it's like, yeah, you do music and you do like some with stuff with like fashion or design or whatever, right? And then you also do junk removal, and it's all encompassing who you are as a person. Yep. And sometimes you're going to have these market segments that bleed over. And so that's what I'm realizing, that I don't have these junk removal people, and I don't have these words people, and these the veteran people. I have people that give a shit about me or they don't. And if they give a shit about me, they might give a shit about these other things. And so like Taylor and I had that conversation and we compared it to Gary Vee. Gary Vee does his marketing, right? But he also he still has his wine shit from, where he cut his teeth. And now he actually has a trash talk podcast. That's why we are the Trash Talk Business Podcast, because Gary Vee has Trash Talk, where he goes to rummage sales, right? And the thing is, it's all under the Gary Vee brand. So it's like, okay, Gary Vee's doing it right. You're doing it right. I need to get on board and keep all the brand, at the end of the day, it's the Andy Weins brand, and keep all the things that are within the brand on point. And even I do appreciate you asking, 75 episodes before we got into the why do I wear a Green Up Solutions shirt and a Camel Crew hat some days, right? And there's because it's very distinct brands. The other thing is like when I've done, like Casey talked about the McDonald's job, like one alibi from last episode was that, they absolutely asked for data ahead of time of other jobs I've done and disposal and recycling rates and all those things to show that I documented history. And there are some projects I've taken on as Green Up Solutions because they would not have hired junk removal company. And so also having those right distinctions. So Green Up Solutions has its own website, right, that talks about environmental responsibility solely, while Camel Crew is more the customer facing. And so there's a reason why we have those two companies, and it's purely from a branding exercise. Because again, not always is it let's hire the junk removal company, it's let's hire the environmental consultant. And it's again, same thing. So for those of you guys listening, I often wear a Green Up Solutions shirt and a Camel Crew hat, especially on Mondays or like today on Tuesday. We're recording this episode on Tuesday. And I keep my Camel Crew shirts for days where I'm doing networking specific to Camel Crew. Mostly because I have a shitload of Green Up Solutions shirts. That's really it. It's a laundry thing. I have 5 Camel Crew shirts. If I wore them every day, I'd have to do laundry every week with all the discipline. I have like 15 Green Up Solutions shirts. So there you go. That's why I wear it. All right. We covered a lot. You got one more thing, Kyle? Just
not that I know of.
You got one thing, Kyle? You got something? Okay, wait. The last thing I was just gonna say was when you're building that personal brand, so many people forget that you are a brand and you can build that. That's why The Rock started out WWE and then into acting, and now he can start a company and it become $1 billion company within a couple years because of who he is and the brands he's built. So it's okay when you're starting out to maybe niche down into something to build that first following, but then do not be afraid to sprinkle in, some flavor of, I skateboard, I do music, I do fashion, and then eventually you can post more of those things. So then you can literally have people that care about everything you do and all facets of what you do.
Oh, that's really good advice. Yeah, you're right. Like he started as Rocky Maivia, right? Like, and then they had this whole backstory. Yeah, he turned into and he doesn't get away from Dwayne The Rock Johnson, right? He also doesn't, right? Like he doesn't get away from. I mean, I was watching Hulk Hogan stuff earlier today. Like he was Hulkamania, right? And now he's Hollywood Hulk Hogan. He's still like the origin brand is still there, and he's a cultural icon, even though he's a wrestler. Right, and now he has his bar that they do karaoke on. Actually, that's the other side. He's in Tampa, right? He's on the other coast.
Or Clearwater, yeah.
Clearwater, yeah. My brother hung out with him. My brother worked for this charity for a little bit. That was like, for lack of a better term, doing Make-A-Wish shit, type of stuff. They were called Dream Factory, and he got to meet Tyson and Hogan, which are like I was like, hey, how are those guys? And he's like, yeah, both of them are just like they take up more space than they take up, right? They are larger than life people. And like Mike Tyson, like those are the two. Like my brother's met a lot of cool people, and those are the two where I'm like, oh shit, that's where those are the two I wanted to meet because I grew up, I'm a little bit older. I grew up in the '90s where like Hogan and Tyson were, larger than life. So, all right, well, it's been 2.5 hours, 2 episodes, knocked them out, got it done. This has been another amazing episode 75 of the Trash Talk Business Podcast. I want to thank my guests, Logan and Kyle, and our co-host, Casey, who was on last episode. And now this episode is fucking weird. If you got this far, you already know the whole story. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We will see you again next week.